that is literally the full-time whistle here at the Stade de France. These are going to be my immediate thoughts. As you can see, the full-time whistle is literally just blown. The players are out on the pitch, and oh my god, I've got to gather my thoughts. You can see the whole Bok team in the green and yellow tracksuits hugging down on the touchline. The final score, spoiler alert, France 17, South Africa 32. What a match, what an occasion, and what a team this World Rugby Championship Springbok team are. And it was never going to change who had the trophies and who had the accolades and who had the world #1 spot, but this felt like a heavyweight boxing match. And well, France were bringing the best in the Northern Hemisphere belt to the table. South Africa were bringing the World Championship title to the table, and there was, in the end, only one winner. But that was so much fun. Let me know what you think. Please, your thoughts. Just let the emotion go. Just say what you reckon, what your immediate thoughts are, because that's what I'm going to try and do right here. I absolutely loved that. I absolutely loved that. And I think the first thing that I want to say is, well, do you know what? Fundamentally, I think I would say that felt like a knockout match. And there were a number of people that I spoke to earlier who said that they were here for the World Cup quarter-final in 2023, and the energy in the stadium felt very similar. And it's what you want from Test rugby. It's when Test rugby is at its very best, when small moments feel like big moments. And that was this game. It felt like a knockout game. It had that energy. And I'd also say, you could say that as well as echoing back to the 2023 World Cup quarter-final, it echoes back to the Marseille game in 2022, because South Africa managed to come through losing a player with a red card. I'll come on to that in a little bit. Let me just show you the players are all shaking hands. Yeah, that's the thing I want to emphasise. Definitely get a sense of it here. And I was reading a lot of British press, and you read a lot of online stuff, and you would get the impression that this is some sort of a bitter revenge game for France. Some kind of bloodletting exercise where they're going to exercise their demons and take it out on South Africa. Honestly, I chatted to a bunch of French fans, and certainly not the sense I got here. What the sense I get is what you see right down on the pitch now in front of me. There is massive respect between these two teams, and we should celebrate and embrace the rivalry and the brilliance of these two teams, because you need worthy opponents. And France, for a big chunk of that game, were a worthy opponent to South Africa. They did not have the 80 minutes in them. And that was one of the things coming off the back of last week's games. Of course, France didn't have a game last week, and this first team have not played together since March. And they'll point to that as a context. They won't use that as an excuse, nor should they. But on South Africa, one of the things I remember thinking when I watched the Japan game was that was an 80-minute performance. And it wasn't perfect from the Springboks, but they had 80 minutes in them. And at some point, that level of physicality which they bring to the table takes it out of the opponent. And it, in the end, took it out of France, who are just forming a little tunnel down on the touchline. I'll let you see that. But yeah, South Africa put you under massive physical pressure over 80 minutes. And that always tells in the end. And I would say, tactically, South Africa had control of the skies. And I've used the war analogy before. You know, when you think of, like, you know, generals leading armies in warfare, if you have control of the skies, that goes a long way towards winning the war. And South Africa had the heavy artillery as well. There you go. Is that? Can't see Cheslin Colby leading the group through the tunnel, but I haven't even mentioned Sia Khaleesi. What a man! What a leader! 100 caps, and his team. You can imagine that was an extra bit of emotional motivation to dig deep in the well when they needed it, and there were times when they really did need it, and they finished so strongly. That was seriously impressive. So yeah, South Africa had control of the skies. They had the heavier artillery. The scrum penalties came. France are a superb rugby team, and they have some world-class players. And for big chunks of that game, I thought first half they were the better team. I thought they deserved to be in the lead, and they probably should have been further ahead. And when the score was 17-25, which, same scoreline that Scotland-New Zealand was earlier, I thought this felt a bit like Scotland against New Zealand, in that France had opportunities, didn't take them, and but South Africa managed to pull away with an extra try on top of what New Zealand managed earlier. Wilco Louw's just going over to the crowd down there. There's a little pocket of South African fans. I've got to mention Wilco Louw, actually. Oh no, that's Thomas du Toit, sorry. Who had big money offers to come and play in France, and is going back to South Africa. But what was I saying? I can't remember. The South African team in a bit of a huddle. Thomas du Toit is on his own down there, just going for a hug. Someone he knows in the crowd. Very, very big moment for this Bok team. I mean, they've won everything. They've got nothing to prove, but they've just come through another really tough match. Yeah, France. They've got some really, really world-class players. Louis Bielbiere is outstanding. I thought some of their younger guys stood up, did really well, showed promise for the future, but they just did not have a 23 that could match up with South Africa. I've got to say, just on this stadium, which has emptied out incredibly fast, this is like, well, I suppose it's not surprising too much. But yeah, there's a lot of French fans that have stuck around to say well done, and just to say again the fact that this was a stadium that was full of respect. There was a lot of cheers and applause from everyone French for Siya Kolisi when he ran out on his own. In the French stadium, they made all the lights green and gold when the South African anthem was on. And the occasion France put on here is the best. Tell you what, France may not be the best in the world at rugby. They're not far off it, but they're not the best. But they are the best in the world at putting on a proper show. Night games. France and night games, name a more iconic duo. The light show, the music, it was absolutely amazing. I just saw Marnie Le Bock do a Ronaldo Sue. He's just doing that. He's doing that celebration down on the pitch. Oh, you're not going to be able to see it from there. Yeah, France put on a great show, but South Africa are a mighty fine rugby team, but a brilliant event. Early on, the kicking game was as important as ever. I thought France's kicking was a bit questionable. They were going long. South Africa was sat back there waiting for it. Sacha Feinberg-Ngomazulu in particular was sat back there waiting for it, and he was just sticking the bombs up. The very first one was caught by Cheslin Colby, and that set the tone overall for the day. France had their moments, and defensively they were putting big shots in. Paul Boudehon is a proper player, and he went around and took names. Oh, look, they got their you see they're going to jump in on Siya Kolisi's man of the match interview. Love it. Oh, picking him up. Oh, that's such a lovely moment. Siya Kolisi up on the shoulders. That's such a lovely moment. Love it, with his best mate Eben Etzebeth, who he's played with since they were 18. Oh, that's very special. Yeah. Yeah, that'll be the photograph that's on the newspapers. That'll be the shot. Siya Kolisi being carried on shoulders. Rightly so. Rightly so. Oh, I'll let you carry on seeing that, and I'll talk about the game. Yeah. So France did a really good job at keeping South Africa out of their 22. And I actually was Cobus Reinach. It was his try, the very first entry into the 22 for South Africa. I think it might have been, and it was a bit of a breakaway as well. There was brutal physicality in that game all round. I mentioned Paul Boudehon, but every single ruck was a war zone. South Africa were properly attacking rucks. There were counter rucks. There were counter rucks to the counter rucks. South Africa chucking loads of men in, which is a dangerous ploy when you're playing France. Because if you get that wrong and France get quick ball, then you're going to be outnumbered. But it was obviously what they've worked on, and it paid off big time. Because they managed to disrupt France. But even with that, it was Penno that got the opening try. Lovely bit of work from Thomas Ramos, who is an elite player. South Africa's line speed was really fast, pushed him back inside, and he spotted the space on the right, cross kick to Penno. Penno scored another try after a couple of Sacha Feinberg-Ngomazulu penalties, who missed some kicks as well in that first half. And then that breakaway Reinach try, 14-13 at half time. And yeah, I just thought France had been the better team. they should have been more than a point up, and as it proved, and I don't think whatever France would have done, it would have made any difference. Yes, it wasn't the best of France, that is the context. You know, South Africa were missing Oxenche. There was one scrum in the first half where Boam Fenter did a very good Oxenche impression, but yeah, France were without, in my humble opinion, the best player in the world, along with Pieter-Steph du Toit, Antoine Dupont. They haven't played together since March, but I don't think any of that changes the outcome on this occasion, because the power was just too much. Actually, South Africa's backs were fairly quiet. They went up in the air quite a lot, didn't they? But the power was just too much, and it was relentless, absolutely relentless. And the depth. France are the only country that have got the depth that rivals South Africa's, but South Africa have got overall across, they've just got a slightly higher level, or certainly more cohesion. They're all on the same page. I don't know, maybe it's the coaching, I don't know, but they've just got a little something. That what they definitely have is the muscle memory of having been here before. Well, literally been here before. They've been in this stadium and come through tight matches, and they had that muscle memory when they went out on the field, and they've made a statement there because they've just beaten down a really good French team. As for the red card, I'm glad that the chat won't be about the red card, because it didn't make a difference. The red card for Lou de Jager, I think if you were South African, you're probably saying Lou de Jager went really low and there was a late drop in height, and therefore, you know, you've got to be empathetic to that, and I definitely go along with that. And if you're French, you're probably saying, well, it was a direct shoulder to the head and he didn't wrap with his left arm, so that'll be a red card. And I bet you if it was a French player making exactly the same tackle, then everyone South African would have said it's a red card, and everyone French would have said it nothing to it. I can see both sides. I feel sorry for Lou de Jager because he might cop a ban, and there was absolutely no intent in that. But equally, I'd say with Louis Bielbiéré's yellow card, there was no intent in that. He was trying to catch the ball. I feel sorry for people that get the deliberate knock-on when they're clearly making an effort to catch the ball, but you can understand why it was given a yellow. I can understand why it was given a red. I may not have given it as a red. Maybe a yellow would have been good. Certainly it was more a red than Tyg Burns, but you could argue neither were. He was very low, and he did wrap with his right arm, but he didn't with his left. And again, I'll just say this, my guess is South African fans would say no, nothing to it, and French fans would say red. But if it was the other way round, French fans would be saying nothing to it and South Africans would be saying red. So with that being the case, I'm not going to moan at whichever decision Angus Gardner made, because it's tough. I'm just glad it didn't spoil the game. Glad it wasn't a reason for a victory or a loss. And that was a great game. Look at all the Bok fans that have stuck around for their team, who were just doing a little lap around the dead ball area here. There was quite a lot of green and gold in the stadium and around the stadium, I have to say. It's quite impressive. As for the rest of the stadium, it has emptied out rather quickly. What an occasion, what a game. And was that a moment? Bearing in mind we didn't have Antoine Dupont in the stadium, and with all the talk about Sasha FM, my favourite radio station, and arrogance, wherever that chat's come from, I don't know, was that a moment where he has announced himself on another level? That try at the end, just kind of saying, Antoine, you're not here, the crown is mine. Maybe. Long way to go before you can put him up there, and we had the great Pieter-Steph du Toit out on the turf as well. What an occasion, what a match. Signing off from Stade de France in Paris. If you appreciate the content on the channel, give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. I absolutely love that.